Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you very much. We're just going to try to give you some information, not to carry forward as you guys are discussing how we're going to go about conducting our geophysical operations and our study. I just want we're Dawson Geophysical. We're celebrating our 60th year of business now, and this year, and we are the oldest active American seismic company performing work, and we work in primarily the lower 48, and we're hoping to do this another 60 years. So we've got some experience, and we're going to talk about it because we have been performing a lot of urban seismic lately. All the easy stuff's done. All the prime areas have been taken care of, and now we're searching for the hardest stuff that's hard to find. And as Steve said, here's a map of the 3D area that's called the West Cherokee Survey. And as you can see, the city of Alva represents a footprint in this 3D. In fact, the city of Alva is around 2.5 square miles. That's a significant piece of real estate that a 3D survey can have in it on the surface. And it also represents a very important piece in the subsurface, because seismic geophysical testing tells a story. And that story, if we're missing chapters in that story, we can't tell the complete story. So we would love the opportunity to include Alva to be able to complete this story. We've actually done acquisition to the west of here as well for Chesapeake. So this is completing a very big regional picture that Alva would be a part of. So we're going to talk about it. And the thing I want to point out today is geophysics and geophysical testing, we've actually changed. We're now a drill tool, because drilling really promotes technology. Drilling changes the way we do things. Today's technology says we don't just go down and look at a hole that's 5 inches in the earth at 6,000 feet where they're looking at here. We do that, but then we go horizontal. That drill bit actually goes horizontal now for 10,000 feet or more. That drilling technology has changed, but seismic data, geophysical data, has now become a drill tool. And so you're a very important piece of that puzzle to make that drilling tool work very well. So I point this out. For Chesapeake specifically, who's involved with this, we shoot a lot of urban seismic. We've been involved in hundreds of square miles in the Fort Worth area, the Arlington area, the Dallas area. And this is just to show areas within that metro area that we've been within the last 1.5 to 2 years. A lot of that testing, a lot of that work comes to bear with what we do here. There's lots of lessons learned, lots of studies done, and we bring that to bear here. But we've also shot things in cities, Rush Springs in Oklahoma, Hinton, around Yukon. We've been in small communities just over the border in Arkansas, and recently now with some activity up in Wyoming, some older communities in the Wyoming area. So we're constantly, almost every 3D survey now has an urban aspect to it that we have to take into consideration. So just a little bit of why we do 3D seismic. And this gentleman up here, talked about this and said that technology prior to 3D has been a cloudy crystal ball at best. Now, we have found a tremendous amount of hydrocarbons with past technology. But 3D technology, imaging the subsurface in 3 dimensions, has changed the focus completely of the way we look at the subsurface. So what it does is it takes risk out. So it finds us better geologic knowledge, it gives us better locations to put in the ground, we're more successful, and so we're not risk adverse, but it's taking the risk out of it. That's tremendous. Some 3D surveys now, clients are 120 for 120 on drilling wells, successful wells. 15 years ago, we were happy to be 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. That's a successful program without the ability to look at 3D seismic to drive that technology to do it. So it's a very important tool for the drilling aspect for the oil and gas community. So here's this picture. We do this now. We are taking that well bore and it's making that turn, as in the picture on your left-hand side, and it goes horizontal. It'll go horizontal for 5 to 10,000 feet. Now, to be able to do that was a technological breakthrough for these, what we call resource plays that Woods and Alfalfa County has become. And so by doing that, we can take advantage of more of the area, not just a hole 5 inches down in it, but now we can take up a 5-inch hole 10,000 feet. That presents a tremendous amount of hydrocarbon that becomes available by doing that. But it's not easy, because although we may look at this picture and say, well, gosh, yeah, look how well behaved those rocks are. And that's not hard to make sure that the well bore stays right where you need it. And I agree, if rocks were exactly like that, that would be. But they're not. Mother Earth has done tremendous things with the rocks. And even in Alfalfa and Woods County, even though they're not flat lying, they present problems for us. And what happens is that they can look like this. So now, instead of that nice flat rock where we can just let the well bore go and it'll take care of everything, we are presented with problems that are in the subsurface that we can't see unless we provide a map for them. What happens is we may unsuccessfully drill a well, and then we got to go back and re-drill it, and then go back and re-drill it, and then go back and re-drill it till we understand why it's not working without the seismic. And so it's like this. If I said, gosh, Mayor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to drive 10,000 feet down a interstate in Oklahoma and blindfolded. And in that picture, you could probably, at about 1 mile an hour, just let it go, you would probably be pretty successful at doing it. Your sense of where you're at, you might be pretty close at doing that. And if that were the case, that'd be great. But now I'm going to say, gosh, Mr. Mayor, now I've got a bend in the road. Oh, and there's mountains. Oh, and there's traffic. Oh, and by the way, you're blindfolded, but you got to stay on Interstate 64. Don't go on 77. So you got to be sure you get the right exit. Or I'm going to say, now you're in a metropolitan area, and find your way through that blindfolded. Well, those are the options we have as an industry without geophysical data. Is we can't make our way through that mess blindfolded, just like we can't drive it. So here's actual seismic data in one of these resource plays that we're in right now. The red kind of squiggly line that makes that bend is the actual well bore that was drilled by Chesapeake in this data. It was very important for them to be able to see that really dark horizon below the red horizontal line, and there's a really faint one right up above it. So it's these two areas right there that the well bore is sitting in. They had to stay in that formation. If they went below it, it watered out the wells bad. If they went above it, they would also lose circulation in the well. They also had to watch out because rocks can break and do all kinds of things. In this case, the rocks were breaking a little bit further over. They had to avoid all that, but stay in that horizon. Now, that's only 40 or 50 feet. So they don't have a lot of slop to move that well bore around. But they had 3D seismic to do this. So with 3D seismic, they can actually guide. It's called geosteering. They know exactly in the subsurface where it is, both up and down, side to side, and they're able to stay in that formation. So if that formation makes a little bit of a rise, the seismic tells them that they can make that little bit of rise with the well bore to stay within the formation. So it's phenomenal technology to drive a well bore 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet in the ground laterally for 10,000 feet. So that's what the seismic can do. So a little bit about how we generate this, because that's what's really important. We want to generate it, but how do we do that? So I'm going to give you like a 5-minute science lesson on seismic, because you need to know this. Seismic's we equate ourselves a lot to the medical profession. And as a sonogram is generated with sound waves, so is a seismic section generated with sound waves. That's what we're doing. We're putting sound waves into the ground. And these sound waves, what they do is, instead of on a sonogram, as in this sonogram over here, where it's finding the infant, We're finding rocks under the ground and what they can do. But it's the same technology. Sound waves down, echoing off of a rock, and that echo, that sound wave comes back, and then we pick up that sound with the geophones that we have in the ground. So it really is that. Sound waves going down, generated, echoing off of rocks, coming back up, and we can determine where things are at in the subsurface with that. But the important thing is this. Here it is in 3D. Let's see if I can get this one to go. So here it is in 3D. Now there's three-dimensional sonograms in the medical world. That is phenomenal technology. That's the son of my colleague that's right down the office. He let me do it. That's really nice. But it's three-dimensional sonograms. Well, we can do three-dimensional seismic data too. This is a volume of data that we can cut up and slice up and turn around and look at the details that not only do you see a nose and a foot and a smile, we can see that nose and foot and smile in 3D seismic. So that's the relationship between the two. It's exactly that same technology. And I often relate to it that, I tell this story kind of sheepishly, but at an office down in Midland, I was going to a safety meeting and I tripped and fell and broke my leg at a safety meeting of all things. But they took me to the hospital, they took an x-ray, and they go, well, we know you're hurting, but we can't find out anything. That x-ray said nothing was there. There was no problem. 2 days later, they did a MRI, a three-dimensional image of that leg, and they saw the fracture in it. But they couldn't see it with the regular x-ray. Well, that's the same thing. We don't see a lot of stuff in the regular data that we can see in the 3D data now. So again, a sound wave going down. Think of it this way. It's like throwing a rock in a pond and that hits that pond and the waves go out. That's the way sound waves go down into the ground. So it does that. Sound waves, we generate them for 5 to 8 seconds. Sound waves at different frequencies. Earth takes frequencies differently. They go down, they find something to reflect off of. That reflection goes back up to those geophones. And because we know the direction it went down and the way it came back up, and we know the way sound travels through rock, we know it, we know how fast it does, so we know how quickly it came up, we can say, that's 6,000 feet in the subsurface. It's easy. It really is. I mean, that's the simplistic look at it. Now, I can give you about an 8-hour discussion on the science and the equations behind that, and you'd be like, oh my God, this is already brutal enough, and we don't want any equations. But that's it. Sound waves down, echoing, coming back. We know how fast sound travels. We know how deep it is in the subsurface. So urban acquisition. How do we apply all of that to urban acquisition? So we look about many things, and the first most important thing is safety first. And the reason that is it's safety for our employees. We have a safety record that is unmatched in the industry. We are internationally recognized now for our safety program, and we are also OSHA recognized for our program. And we're the only seismic company in the U.S. that has their program that's been approved by OSHA. So these are really important things. So it's about safety of our employees, but it's also safety for the surroundings, the safety for the people that are around us, the landowners, the homeowners, the city itself. So it's safety first. And so we do that. We protect the city. There's municipal regulations we have to follow. There are services that you have that we need to recognize and work hand in hand with. We have to worry about the residents within the city. We protect the environment. We are awarded national recognition every year for our work with the environment, how we try to do the best we can to be a green company.